This conference will now be recorded.
Tuesday, January 17th, 2023 meeting of the Bladen County Board of Commissioners. At this time, I'd like to ask Commissioner Tim or McGill to lead us in invocation, and then after that, Mr. Greg Martin will lead us in our pledge of allegiance.
Pray, Father, thank you for the privilege of serving you. By serving those of this county, we're blessed to do both. Pray you might give us your wisdom, your discernment, discretion. Our hearts, minds would be right before you so that we might do that which is right. Lord, I do thank you for our community and for just the light that it is and the beacon of strength and refuge for so many, whether they're here for a lifetime or here for just a day. And tonight, I pray that you might be glorified in all that's said and done in Jesus' name. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everyone had a chance to look at the motion to approve back there. Motion to approve by Mr. Peterson, second by Mr. Britt. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Individuals, delegation, to the rest commissioners. Matters of interest to commission.
Sheriff, I got one.
Yes, sir.
I got this call this evening from the United States Marine Corps, and they're very interested in White Oak Levee coming down and meeting with us April the 12th. We've had the Army down here one time before, so it's good news, but it's nothing in concrete. But they want to come down and tour the dike, and hopefully they'll take that on as a project. More to come.
Amen.
Yes, sir, Mr. Bullock.
I've been contacted by some citizens about the exit routes at East Bladen. The water is standing there. And they're afraid, when it's cold weather, that to be iced up and everything, someone may have an accident. So they're asking that the school board repair those exits at East Bladen High School.
All right, you make all contact, please, sir. Anyone else? All right, let's step down and recognize some very special people. You want to carry your word now. When I say that, I'd like to thank all of our employees. We have some of the best employees. We come up against anybody. We appreciate everything that you do. Call you up to come up. We got a little something for you. Mr. Eric Graham, working the housekeeping.
Outside on his show. You want me to get over here? He started.
Sure. Mr. Graham came to us a little over 5 years ago now, and has been responsible for working on our floors and keeping things shined and polished for us. He does a great job. He also helps out with our environmental staff. When we have shortage, he comes willing to come in and help fill in. He's done us a great job, and we thank him for his service.
Fine, I can think of his name.
Yeah.
Mr. Robinson came to us a little over 5 years ago and works in our solid waste department. He is currently our loader operator at our transfer station. Without his services there, we would be in a big mess.
Yes, we would. Literally.
Got that right.
He's willing to come in and help us out a little bit right around Christmas there when I asked for a crew to come in and make up a crew so we could keep things open and at the convenience sites. He was willing to come in and work half a day one day and a whole day the next so that things got out of here like they should have. And we thank you for his service.
And Mr. Robinson has been with us for 5 years. And we better realize Karen Suggs, animal control, he's been with us for 15 years.
It's all great.
So it's with great pleasure that we talk about Karen Suggs and the work that she does with the staff at the animal shelter. You'd be hard pressed to find anybody in Bladen County that loves animals any more than Karen does. The care that she gives the animals that come and everything that she does to keep them safe and to try to find them good homes, you'll never know the measures that she goes to. Additionally, when folks get to stay home on a Monday like yesterday, animals still have to be fed, animals still have to be exercised, so they don't get a day off. Thank you for the work that you do for the animals in our county, and because you work with them, they make a whole lot of human lives better too.
Amen. Just a few more folks, if you happen to see them out and about the next days. Derek Harris, solid waste 5 years. Joyce Montgomery, Health Department 10 years. Zulema Cardenas, DSS 10 years. Kayla McDuffie, jail 5 years. James White, Sheriff's Office 10 years. Barry Pate with the Sheriff's Office for 15 years. And Taffy Andrews, DMS for 15 years. Good on them.
You get reception for this?
This time we will have a reception. Step next door.
This conference will now be recorded.
Next on the agenda will be Lisa Coleman, our finance department.
First thing on the agenda will be for the audit, so I'll turn it over to Fine Star.
Good evening, everyone. Again, I appreciate the opportunity to conduct your 2021 and 22 audit, and special thanks to Lisa, Greg, and all the department heads, because we harass them so much as we go through this process, and they're always good and quick to get this information, so we thank everybody. You've got in front of you, I think, the summary as well as the bound final copy of the audit. I'm just going to do as I've done in the past, hit some of the highlights. Please feel free to interrupt me at any time. My contact information is on the front, so call me, come see me, or shoot me an email. I'm certainly just right around the corner. We're going to get started on page 1 of the presentation, which is the required auditor communications. That kind of gives you an idea of what we are responsible for when we conduct an audit. The number one thing is to express an opinion on your financial statements. We have expressed that opinion to be unmodified, which doesn't sound good, but it is the highest opinion that we can render. It means we haven't modified any of the numbers within the financial statements. We also want you to know that we've obtained reasonable assurance. We can't do absolute assurance because we can't look at every transaction that goes on within the county's finances and other areas. We also want you to know that we understand your internal controls so we can assess the risk and then prepare our audit procedures accordingly. We also try to get an understanding of your accounting principles to evaluate those, and we have, and all those are appropriate. During our audit, if we have any small issues, we bring those to Greg and Lisa and discuss them and resolve them. Then any significant ones we bring before you in this presentation tonight. We also accumulate any adjustments, give those to Lisa, she approves them, and we move on with posting those through the financial statements. On page 2, your significant accounting policies. In the bound copy of the notes, starting on page 24, is a lot of written language of this. Please feel free to read that sometime to get a better understanding, but all of those are appropriate for accounting within North Carolina, the United States. Adoption of changes of accounting policies, we are required to inform you of those. There was a change in the way that the county accounts for leases. If you want to get into that, I'll be certainly glad to do that on another night. Significant accounting estimates, we review those, and all those are appropriate and reasonable. Again, on that page 24 goes into the disclosure of your accounting policies and procedures. We had no difficulties and we had no disagreements with your management during our engagement. Sliding over to page 3, we did propose journal entries that we have in the past. Lisa did review those and accept those. There were none that she did not agree with. Management representations were signed off. We had no other issues. And the other findings, similar to last year, where we were going to go over in the compliance section of the audit and the local government commission's financial indicators. Page 4, 5, and just kind of go over in detail. Page 5 really is, or page 4 is our letter on internal control and what we do to understand and evaluate your internal control. Page 5 is a summary of our audit. It discloses any of our findings in internal control, which is a significant deficiency we have discovered this year, same as last year. And your federal awards, we do have material weaknesses and significant deficiencies in addition to some non-compliance. These are the same as they were last year. We're going to get into the details of those. For your state grants and awards, there were no findings or deficiencies. On page 7, it goes into the detail of your financial statement deficiency that we have discovered or we are listing. That's a prior period adjustment, which means we had to change the numbers of the final numbers for 2020 and 21. Not a real big deal. It's just things that we had addressed this year that we wanted to change for last year, just to keep the comparability of the numbers correct. On page 8, deals with a material weakness in the Department of Social Services with Medicaid. This finding has been discussed in audits previously. See the detail in page 8. Also on page 9 is a deficiency that we have this year that's new for the Low Income Energy Assistance Program. There were some deficiencies in the way that the applications were processed. Page 10 gets into the detail of a non-compliance issue with Medicaid, very similar to what we have discussed in the past. Pages 11. Yes, sir.
That's my concern, and that my question is based on these repeated items.
Yes, sir.
So how many years do we let it repeat? I mean, when do we not have repeat items? I guess what I'm asking. It doesn't make sense to hire alter and do a recommendation, then it comes right back next year to repeat items. That's the only flags I have.
Yeah, I understand exactly what you're saying with the repeat findings. The prior period adjustment is a repeat finding because we had it in 2020 and 2021. And what that is we just discovered the way we were doing something, then we wanted to change the way it was done. So we just moved the numbers to keep them in according to better comparability and to line things up. Getting to the Department of Social Services, I really will let them elaborate more on that, but it's not a finding that's uncommon. I mean, we audit 24 counties within the state of North Carolina, and the vast majority have these same exact findings. Am I minimizing it? By no means, no. But it's repeat findings for everyone, and it's just a matter of getting the. I hesitate to say because I'm not within the Department of Social Services.
Yeah, and I ain't trying to put you on the spot, but I mean,
I understand, yes, sir.
We shouldn't have repeat items. I mean, I don't care if every county in the state has it. We shouldn't have repeat items, and that we need to focus on those things. What are we going to do differently this year that they ain't repeat items next year?
It sounds like, from what I've been told, a lot of the turnover.
It doesn't make any difference. It's still a repeat item. You still don't want deficiencies.
So I agree.
I mean,
We need deficiencies. Who does?
I mean,
I agree with Commissioner Peterson. It seems like we would learn from our mistakes. We keep making the same mistake over and over, and that's not good.
I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, you've got the health director back there. I think the changing way that the state's constantly changing and doing things, to me, is probably a major factor. There's government, standard, policies, everything's continuing to.
Well, Medicaid is extremely complicated. And there's exceptions to every rule, to exceptions to those rules, to exceptions to those exceptions. So it gets complicated. It gets into a lot of the weeds, and having staff turnovers, once doesn't help.
Those numbers are not constants, right? They're like you're saying, they're not something you can't say at the beginning of the year it's going to be this. That's just not going to be the case.
It is not going to be the case.
No.
Just like with the LEAP program, I mean, you had such a significant increase in applications, and it's over a small window of time.
Yeah. So if there's any variance at all, you're already in a repeat mode.
But, Mr. But I might comment. Well, in the past, a couple years ago, we received a briefing for DSS, or from the health department, from Medicaid case. Some of the issues that they had and why there was no variance. Was it because of turnover? Was it the same people doing the same errors every month? I think we had that past. So maybe that's something that we need to look at every month instead of waiting till the end of the year and then you can.
Well, Lisa's office does have someone that goes over there quarterly maybe and does kind of the same thing, because our person who does the compliance testing kind of sat down with her when she was doing it and gave her some of the ideas of how we go in and look. So yes.
Or the same cases. Did she find the same? You found something totally different, your employee.
I think it's kind of the same things.
It's just different cases.
Yeah, we're not looking at the same cases.
Right. So what's happening then, the same errors or the same, and I know it's tough. Medicare is tough. Billing is tough. All certification for it, I understand there's a lot of questions and things they must follow first to approve it. I got that. But at the same time, there has to be somebody that can check the person in front of them. That means audit before it goes out.
Well, it's like years ago there was a segregation of duties within the county because there was a limited number of people that were working. So, you look at, well, do I hire more people at a supervisory level to take the application and go through one more step to review what they've done? That's where it's going to help the most, is having someone catch it while it's still in the review process. Because even if when we come in, of course it's too late, or when you have someone checking it within the county, it's already too late because that person's already gone to the doctor and filed a claim. So they're already been eligible and there's already been a claim, which is a dollar amount that Medicaid has paid. I can't always say fix a problem by throwing more people into the equation, but and I don't know the number of people that work versus that kind of stuff, but that's where we've seen one person's doing it and then it's not being looked at again until a later time, which is too late. Yes, sir.
My whole point was that it's okay to mess up one time. There's no accountability if you keep making the same mistake. If it's a new mistake, it's different. But there's no accountability if you just say, well, it's a repeat item and this is what we're going to try to do. I'm not looking for excuses why they made it. I'm just saying, if you as a county manager, your accountability and prioritization should be repeat items. I'm not going to see a repeat item. I'm not going to see this next year. That's the point I was trying to make. I know that they have tough times there, but you got to prioritize them. You don't keep making the same mistakes.
That's right.
That's all what I was trying to say.
That's right. I'm hearing us talking about time frames and things out. When you come in and start getting ready to comprise this report, how long a period does it take you to put this documentation and sheet together? A month, 2 months, 3 months? How long is that process?
We start in June by preparing our processes for the letters that y'all get. I mean, y'all get those in July, as soon as June 30th. And so, I mean, we're starting the audit process when it comes to just Medicaid. That could start in May. And when I say it could start in May is we can't start until the state sends us the list of claims. So we pull our cases by the claims filed to Medicaid, not by the actual people who apply to Medicaid, but by the 700,000 claims that go for medical billings. We get that in May, and that is for the period July to February. So we pull a sample from those months. And then we come in I think it's August, July, because as I mentioned, we do 24 counties. So we've got staff that's pretty much does nothing but compliance audit in Medicaid and other DSS programs. So they start scheduling it. Then in August to the 1st of September, the state sends out another section of cases or claims from March to June. So then we get that information and then we start scheduling that. So usually by the end of October, we've had all the compliance testing done. And in the meantime, we're doing all your financial reporting. So by December 1st, we're to have the this bound copy to the local government commission for their review.
President, I'm asking, in your audited group, can you pick up any of these points coming up during that time that you could tell the county manager that you've seen a repeat of something's reoccurring that he may need to address? Can he be brought to speed on that during that period of time?
We do, because with that first sample that we tested in August. So I mean, by the end of August, I was aware that we were seeing similar problems. And I don't know if I actually communicated it to Greg and Lisa at that time, but because what I like to do is get the findings and then let the DSS staff look at those findings and then rebut it. Because when we say something's wrong, we give them the opportunity to prove us wrong. Because we only see it from this viewpoint, and we want them to, who has all angles to the case, let us know if we're looking at it wrong or we didn't have a piece of information. Because we do have other issues, but they rebut them and they give us the documentation that we need that's no longer a finding.
So they made aware of all these things that's happening during your process.
Actually, they're sitting beside our staff because due to HIPAA rules and everything like that, we can't get into the state system without that employee guiding us. So when we're there, it's two people. It's one of our people and one of DSS's staff members sitting there the whole day or two going through it. So they're aware as we're doing it, any issues that we're finding.
Not really.
I was gonna say, so y'all are getting imperfect numbers from all this data that you collect on all these claims. How, you can't turn around and make them perfect without declaring imperfections. Is that right? There's no way. I mean, after it's been rendered and it's been found or reported, how do you go back and come back here in front of us and say, well, it's, I don't know how you could report otherwise. I mean, does that make sense?
Let's talk about the way it's reported.
No, I'm saying you're talking about, having these repeated things. I mean, it's going to always be a repeat. Everything was just, I'm saying with healthcare though.
You should have repeat items.
Well, I mean, there's.
I'm talking about,
I'm
saying when he gets that kind of data,
I mean, there's 700,000 claims, and so we're only looking at 121.
Right.
And that's, I mean, it's 8,000 people, I think, that's the population. So 8,000 people are putting in 700,000 Medicaid claims. So we're not going to that list of 8,000 to pull those. We're going through the Medicaid claims, and then we're going back to the application. But I mean, when we're seeing that, it's already been, it could be 6 months that person was applied and that process went through. So I mean, we're 6, 8, 10 months behind in certain cases.
Mr. Scott, should we, as a county, come up with a detailed employee training session?
I would certainly give that opportunity to DSS staff to discuss that. I mean, there's a correction action plan that they spend a lot of time on that I hope y'all have read. If not, take a look at it. They're trying. They're coming up with ways to do it. So I give them credit for spending the time to come up with these corrective action plans.
I know with the federal government, you got to go through a certain training period before you're let loose.
And they do. They do.
And that should cut down on like Commissioner Peterson said, they should cut down on that, look like. You always got But you got new people coming in,
I just a lot of doors. I certainly share the concern. This has been one of the most frustrating challenges that we've dealt with as far as any type of ongoing or recurring issue or whatever. Many of you know that the DSS staff has increased their training tremendously. They focused on this, and they're continuing to do so. We'll provide a report to you or an update here soon as far as those specific measures. But they do talk with some people, Health and Human Services, Advisory Committee on the regular basis.
My last comment is, Mr. Martin, it evidently it's not working. We got to try something different. This is to me, this is an urgency here. When you have repeat items, it's an urgency. And if you're doing an ISO order, you got repeat items. First thing they look at next year, your repeat items, and see if you have completed them, things like that.
And that's what we do. We look at the same thing that we found.
I'm not being critical. No, I'm just,
yes, sir.
The repeat items, what bothers me.
The last question I got, I'm looking at talking about Medicaid and specific things. When you audit this, I'm looking at, you got public safety and you go through the whole, everything. Do you have repeat items? It seems like it's more concentrated in social service and health service, Medicaid. Is this a scenario that happens to all of the different divisions that you audit? Repeat items?
No, sir, it's not, but we do a financial audit, and that's what you got, the big copy, that's all the financial numbers. And then we do a compliance audit. The compliance audit is for grants. You get a grant of over $750,000 in expenditures, that requires us to go do what's called a single audit, and we audit the compliance to that grant requirement. So if the grant requirement said it could only be spent on this kind of money, then we go make sure it was spent on that kind of money. With Medicaid, we are required to redetermine the eligibility. So if that person came in and went through that process, then we go through the exact same process with the documentations that were made at the time of the application. So that is more grouped with DSS, because that's where a lot of the programs are. The other major programs had to deal with, on the state level, the public school bond money that's starting for your new middle school. There was also a major program on the federal side that dealt with the community facility and loan grant with the water expansion. And also the coronavirus money where y'all did the revenue replacement. Those are major programs that we go in and test the compliance to the grant agreements. DSS with Medicaid was the only one, and LEAP, those are the two programs that we had findings in the compliance side of our audit. We're going to skip to page 15, which is turned that way. This is the second year that the Local Government Commission has required that these performance indicators be done. The chart that you see, blue, red, and green, shows your fund balance is growing each year. There's also, on the next page, shows some charts on the quick ratio in your water department. Any pink that you see in the middle indicates that it requires a response by the finance office. Last year, one of the responses was due to the audit being late. That's been resolved this year. It was submitted on time, but it's still to be addressed, as well as the repeat deficiency when it came to the prior period adjustment. So Lisa has drafted that pretty much the same as last year, and I'm in agreement with that. And we'll kind of move on to page 18, which is your cash analysis chart. Most of our financial presentations have a 5-year comparison, so you can see 18, your cash was a little less than 25 million. Balance grown over to 36 million. Please, as we all know, interest rates are starting to go up, and Greg and Lisa and I have discussed this about every option to move money and gain the best rate of return at this time. That's just in your general fund. The next page on 19 shows the cash in your business type funds. That's the water and the solid waste. 2020 was a spike, but that was money being held from for the water expansion grant, so that's why that was such a big year. Getting to page 20 and 21, these are 5-year comparisons of your general fund's revenue. You can see ad valorem taxes, other taxes, restricted sales and services, and very little investment earnings. Looking at expenditures, we do a comparison on your departments, or your functions within your government: general government, public safety, environmental protection, economic fiscal development, human services, and education and cultural, recreation, and debt service. So you can see the comparison on that. I won't get into any of those details unless you really would like for me to do that, or you got specific questions. The next slide, 22, is the general fund expenditures and revenue does a comparison. You did have a surplus for the year, but you can see 2021 expenses were dropping and 2022 expenses were dropping. Do keep in mind, in 2021, you got $1.8 million in coronavirus money that reduced some of your salary and other expenses within your general fund. 2022, you got 5.6 in revenue replacement that actually went to reduce your salaries. So in 2022-23, you're going to see a $10 million increase in expenses. That $10 million is going to be the opposite effect of the 5.6 decrease, in addition to that $5 million that y'all are paying out to the nonprofits. So don't be shocked when we sit here and that chart jumps up next year. That's where it's coming from. But y'all are aware of that because of the budgeting process. Page 23 and 24 give a graph of what your fund balance has done. Fund balance has grown over the past 5 years, which again, you're all to be commended for that. Greg and Lisa and everybody who's helped keep the counties financially sound. Financially sound and having a strong fund balance takes care of the citizens during disasters, during epidemics, and it also allows the county to have financing for grant matches. 25 and 26 is a pie chart of what your 2022 and 21 revenues were made up of. You can see ad valorem taxes were 48% in 22. Other taxes were 16%. Restricted grants were 17%. And sales and service were 17%. You can look into comparison that ad valorem taxes was 51% in 2021. So it did drop, and local option taxes and other taxes did increase a percent. The same kind of pie chart exists on page 27 and 28 for the expenses per governmental function in the general fund. Public safety being 28% in 2022, human services being 29%. And I guess that grew a lot over last year because of the programs that came in during 21 and 22 for additional assistance to help those in need during the epidemic. Page 29 and 30. This shows the 5-year comparison of your water fund revenues. You can see ever since the new expansion came online, it has increased since 2020. Also, you see the solid waste revenues, how they have gone up over the past 5 years in waste disposal and waste collection. Pages 31 and 32 show revenue versus expenses. It is showing somewhat of more expenses in a deficit in both of those funds. You do want to continue to watch that, to increase your fund balance in those areas, and able to, as I mentioned earlier, have grant matches for expansion and as well as fixing what you've already got in the ground. I mean, expansion is one thing, but repairing and bringing the old equipment up to standards. Yes, ma'am.
I mean, when you said all the expenditures are higher than the revenue, what was it?
As far as the dollar amount?
In the why, in the water fund, what's supposed to?
Let's see. In the water fund and in the solid waste fund, keep in mind that these are proprietary funds which are measured just like a business. So in the general fund, you go out and buy a $200,000 ambulance, that is expensed in that year. But in the solid waste fund, if you do a $450,000 excavator or something, that is for budget purposes expended in that year. But on how I'm discussing it is depreciated. So that $450,000 is divided over 5 years. If you go and spend $5 million on the expansion project that y'all just did, that is done over 40 years. So you take a little bit. So in the water fund, there was $1.7 million in depreciation. And I don't want to get too much into the weeds of this, but on page 20 and 21 of your bound copy of the audit, that's the statement of cash flows. That shows you where your cash came from in those two funds. Within the water district, you had a surplus of cash of $1.6 million. It's not like it's cash strapped. It's just that it gives you a deficit when you look at the accounting expenditures and revenues because of all that depreciation. Now, keep in mind, the depreciation is supposed to allow you to put money aside for expansion and the repairs and replacement of all the water lines and water tanks that you've got.
And Mr. Chairman, just to put that in perspective, Kim and I talked about that just this week before last month.
$1,750,000 on in a 1 year depreciation. When you divide that by 12 months by 6,600 customers, you're talking like $22 a month more than our water bills would cover that. So I mean, we need to have a conversation about how we maybe build toward helping to offset some of that, but it'd be a hard fix at any single one shot.
Dude, that was the question you just brought up. I was gonna ask the same thing. If we just came in and did some adjustments on line connectors and rates, do you give those factors, figures to the manager here for him to take a look at it? Do he have access to that kind of information that you projecting you? Do you give that to him when they get ready to do like a cost increase?
No, sir. I mean, that's an area we can't get into because of independence. But the state has so many resources as far as the Council of Government, to help. And USDA, I mean, there's rate studies that are available that they come in and look to see, are your rates too low or your rates too high? And then most times, I'm sure they did that with USDA because they require you to be at a certain level before they'll participate. They don't want you doing a $10 water bill when you should be at a $40 water bill and expect USDA to help you. They want you to have a way to help yourself.
I'm just trying to figure out when you do the audit, does it come into that place?
We look at the efficiencies of it, like Greg and I were talking about the taking of the water. I mean, say y'all pump a million gallons a day. You know, are you billing your customers $1 million a day? Well, not, because you're flushing a lot of the water because you got a lot of dead lines. Y'all got to clean that water because, you know, chlorine changes and does all that. So we do kind of look at that. Same thing on municipalities that have wastewater treatment facilities. You know, if you're processing 1 million gallons a day, what are you billing your customers? The last two slides, page 33 and 34, deal with your property tax collection rate. It is slightly below your state average. It's right at 90, almost 97%, about 1% less than what your state rate is, but still very strong. You can see where your levy did kind of remain the same as 2021. It did increase about $7 million. In 2022 levy that just went out or is being collected, of course, will be at the new revaluation. So you do want to see that increase each year because that's industry putting money into their businesses, which then create added value taxes for y'all. Any questions or?
Motion we accept.
Second. Motion by Mr. McGill to accept the audit, second by Mr. Peterson. Any questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, Mr. Scott. Thank you. All right. Item C, consider approving corrective action.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Mr. Peterson, second by Mr. McGill. Any questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I'd like to, excuse me, I'd like to review the dashboard with you for the 6 months into December. At the end of December, we had collected 55% of the revenues and spent 44.48%. General fund, solid waste, we collected 45%, almost 46%, spent 42%. Versus telephone, we collected 24% and spent 9%. Water fund, we collected 55.63 and spent 34.2%. I will let you know, if you look on the revenues, we have done exactly like Mr. Scott was just talking about. We have reinvested $10 million back into the trust. At the current time, we were getting 0.75%, and we're at almost 4% with the trust right now. So we decided to reinvest that, and we have been talking with the banks about possible CDs. So we're still looking at ways to bring in some more interest into the county. And I hope the notes on the side help, because I know Dr. Mangorns and I were just discussing some of those, trying to help y'all so you can see what the changes were, because there's been many changes this month. All right, and then any questions on that before I go over the bids? At the end of December, we had an average of 71 inmates for the federal inmates, but as of today, we had 84. So they are picking back up. But the average was 71 so far for the first 6 months.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Next, we have Kip McCleary, Director of our Home Services Department.
Thank you. You have before you tonight a report and a request regarding our library and replacement of all the windows in the building. These are exterior windows, not interior glass.
Motion to approve. Motion to approve by Mr. Bullock, second by Mr. Gillespie. Any questions?
I have one. I noticed that the bids were so, one was very close to the, amount. I guess we budgeted 22, 26, and the other 326, nothing in them letters. Is that because that last guy pulled out?
Yes, we actually had 4 on bidders list and 2 declined. We had no bids from 2, and 1 actually sent us an official declination.
What happened to the courthouse window man? He gone.
He said he was busy right now and couldn't put a bid on it and adequately get the job done on time, so he declined. Yes. But thank you.
Any other questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Advisory Board appointment, Bladen County Airport Appeals Board.
Reappoint.
Motion reappoint by Mr. Peterson. Second by Dr. Ellis. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Next, we have the Bladen Community College.
I recommend
Trustees.
I recommend Dr.
Linda Gillespie, and you have
Renee Steele.
Renee Steele. All right. All right, all in favor, any more comment? All in favor of Ms. Gillespie, raise your hand, please. All in favor, what was the name of?
Dr. Renee Steele.
Dr. Steele, please raise your hand. All right, next we have the Bars Advisory Board. Motion to reappoint. Motion to reappoint by Mr. Gillespie, second by Mr. Reed.
He died. He's the one that stayed. He died.
Is that the one?
Yeah, he died.
Can't you reappoint him? That's the one I made a mistake. Motion to second motion to table by Mr. Peterson, second by Mr. Cogdale. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Economic Development Commission.
Which one?
Economic
I
Development.
recommend, Julius Duncan.
Second.
Second for Ms. Julius Duncan.
Julius Duncan.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Last, we have Elizabethtown Planning and Zoning Commission and Board of Adjustment. Motion to reappoint. Motion to reappoint by Mr. Gillespie.
Second.
Dr. Moon Goins. All in favor, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we have one on for February 15th. All right.
Pastor, is that the one that's got to have the 2-day training? Do they need any special training there?
That was like 20-some hours of training.
Will you resend that, please? Because we need to make sure we're gonna be able to go to that training and stuff, okay?
And that'll be two for that.
Right.
What item are you referring to? Number 9.
And there's an Army advisor.
Okay. Next, we have the ARPA Navy project application, really the only one that has all the information and everything will be ready to go except for the funding is the Elizabethtown White Lake Area Chamber of Commerce.
Motion
on page 4.
Whoa, where you getting money? Where you getting money from?
Where the money coming from?
That amount again was
$7,000. $7,000.
And that was on the tourism.
Yes, sir.
What are you doing?
What are you doing?
Make a motion.
Go to the whole thing, Rick?
I made a motion on 7 coming out of mine.
Okay. 7,000 coming out of Mr. Briggs.
What case?
I guess that's your motion. Second by Mr. Peterson. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Commissioner Britt, that's it. Commissioner Britt, paid $7,000 out of it.
I'd like to make a comment.
Absolutely.
That's probably been our biggest increase in our county in tourism. That's a few years, so I think that's a good thing for us. Just one thing.
We were part of it.
Absolutely.
Good job.
I agree. Thank you so much, Mr. Britt.
We were part of it. Well, I didn't know that's what
Mr. Greg Martin, County Manager.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'd like to review the calendar with you.
About 19. I'm sorry, Mr. Martin.
And point out that tomorrow, I want to remind you, tomorrow from 11 until 12, there will be a meet and greet with Senator Brett Jackson, that will be at the Cape Fear Winery here in town. You all are invited to attend that. Also, tomorrow afternoon at 4:30, there's an uplift meeting that will be held at the Powell Melvin Building regarding that new program. On Thursday, the 19th at 5:30, the Elizabethtown White Lake Area Chamber annual dinner will be held at Blue Hill. I think dinner may be at 6:30 or 6 o'clock. That's just the time to
Meet and greet.
meet and greet. That's right. And then Saturday, I want to remind you that the casino night will be held at Cape Fear Winery. 7 people are invited to that. On Tuesday, the 24th at 8 o'clock, the Bladen County Water Conservation Board will meet at the Powell Melvin Building. That day at 12 noon, the Economic Development Commission will meet at the airport. And also on Tuesday, the 31st at 6 p.m., the Substance Use Task Force will meet at Bladen College. And
You repeat that again.
on Thursday. On Tuesday, January 31st at 6 p.m., the Substance Misuse Task Force will be at Bladen Auditorium. You all are invited to attend. I did want to also let you know I've received a picture, a text today with a couple of pictures. And she had toured a healing place down in Wilmington. They had a ribbon cutting.
today.
That's okay,
I
yeah.
think that's all.
And so that it looked really, the picture she sent looked. And moving over to February, there's a prayer service here on Monday the 6th at 8 a.m. Board meets that evening at 6:30. The NACO Legislative Conference will take place in Washington, Saturday the 11th, Tuesday the 14th. The Health and Human Services Advisory Committee meets on Monday the 13th at 5. The Board of Elections meets on Tuesday the 14th at 5 p.m. On Friday the 17th, 3 until 7, the Year of the Trail event ends with check-in and kick-off at the Cape Fear Farmers Market.
That's where that 7,000 is going to be.
Yes, sir, it is, yes. And just to remind you all, Bladen County, that 2023 is the Year of the Trail. They are going to 14 communities over the course of the year throughout the state. And Bladen County is the first community to host. So we're excited about that. And so thank you all for your
Isn't he the
participation.
speaker at the chamber Thursday night?
The person who's, I think that will be the topic. I can't remember the speaker's name, but yes, that is the topic. And Terry indicated to me one day last week that the Secretary of Cultural Resources is supposed to be here. That continues through Saturday, Sunday. The board meets on Monday the 20th at 6:30, Tuesday the 21st at 12 noon. There's a board planning session, certainly remind you about that. And we're working to finalize the agenda, and we'll have it to you for to finalize the draft, and we'll have it to you. Mr. Chairman, if I may, just share one more thing. I received an email today from Lee, North Carolina, which is a program that is hosted by the School of Government, and they are working to strengthen local governments by helping to train the next generation of local government employees. And so they are encouraging particularly rural communities to participate. They will provide funding to help offset the cost of a person, this would be a college graduate who's interested in a career in local government. They'll help to provide funding. The county would be required to spend $10,000 or whatever, depending on the nature of the need, that type of thing. So the application, the reason I'm bringing it up tonight, the application deadline is February the 8th. It's a simple thing, but I'll put a handout at your place. If you all don't have a problem, I think it'd be a great thing. They are focused. One thing that got our attention today when we talked, they are focusing on 12 of these individuals to work in local governments with a finance, particularly rural counties, and with a finance theme or finance focus. And we certainly position to be able to help you person in that.
So, would they be, obligated to work for us?
No, just they've worked here for 1 year.
So
It's a 1 year deal.
we're gonna spend $10,000 for 1 year employment?
Yes. I mean, that's what they said, that's what the thing says. I don't know all the details yet, but that's what they.
I'm not in.
I mean,
need a vote on that?
you may not want it, but, I mean, you can't hire anybody.
Just 1 year.
How many hours, how many years, I mean, hours, a year?
Yeah, 1 year.
A 1 year full-time employee.
Yeah,
That's cheap.
I mean,
You got to spend $10,000 to train them for 1 year employment.
but can they not work while you train them?
Yeah, but that's the pay, that's the only expense we got is the 10, there's no salary.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, they pay this out, they don't pay.
And then they'll work, that, and tourists be somebody to teach.
I don't know that we'd be selected, I mean, I was just.
What kind of work they can do, they work, you know,
That was
that
just a misunderstanding. That's something.
Okay,
He thought we were having.
Okay.
You need anything from us?
Okay.
If you don't object to it,
Reimbursement, but they got to work so many years.
complete the application, or we need to put it back on the agenda for next time for a formal amount. You know, I don't want to get ahead of it.
on tonight?
All right, vote on tonight, you can.
Can't vote on Monday.
Because it's next week.
Can't vote on it. Oh, yeah, I was doing this.
He's
applied, he's not spending the money.
Yeah, I don't know that we'll be approved.
So, I mean, we're not spending the money then.
We can give you a word of mouth to do that.
Yeah, that's fine. I just wanted to share it all with you.
Yeah.
Go ahead with it.
Thank you, man.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Individuals, got anybody that signed up? All right.
The thing I got is that Miss Duncan's here. I talked with Nathan, and I got in some masks, the surgical masks, not the N95. And I got the ones for children. And with all this contagious stuff going on, they kind of saying that you keep it in trials if you want to wear them, if that's something you want to do, that they're available. And I got in 40 pallets of masks, but they'd be for the whole southeast and from Kendall, Brunswick, New Hanover. The school has already gotten some of their, getting ready to issue them out to kids because they said so many kids are catching these.
Respiratory.
Infection of. No, it's not required. It just is, if a kid wants to wear them, they can be available. Right now, you go to the school, right now, like East Bladen, you will see the majority of the kids are putting masks on. Where they on. I have in our warehouse over here. If anybody, church or school or kindergarten that wants them, they got the ones for small kids, I got those, and I got the ones for adults. And I'm just saying, they are available if anyone wants them. And I'm gonna sit them, I'm planning on doing it this Saturday during this trip. Where if you come in from a church or any organization or any individual and want some of them, or your business, when people coming in coughing or whatever,
What time?
they will be available. I'm talking about doing it from 11 to 2 o'clock. They'll be available for anybody to come in. You just have to fill out a form and 100, 200, or 1,000. Miss Duncan, if she wants something to put in the health department, people coming in sick at the hospital, fine, I have that.
I was gonna offer, there's a lot of studies out there about psychological effects, putting a mask on a child won't make it anyway.
You know,
Thank you so much, because they do need it. Kids want
this is nothing to a child, to a parent. You know, a child has to follow with.
Nobody has, that's what nobody said it was medical.
Yeah.
All they said was.
Well, everybody else gonna have to, that's it out there.
That's mandatory, this is you have to decide.
Dr. Mungo.
I have a follow-up on that water, the hydrant.
Yes. I reached out to Mr. Cameron. Yes, sir. Kip and I talked about it, and I want to thank Kip. He and his staff went out and tested hydrants. The pressure, it's not an immediate pressure issue, it's a volume issue.
Okay.
And so what that, which we all understand.
Right.
Our tanks, we have relatively small tanks.
Right.
They're sparsely populated throughout the county. And so if there was a fire state, his concern is particularly East Arcadia School.
Right.
If there was a fire there, he would have to line up mutual aid and a lot of trucks to help shuttle water because after so much time, a relatively short period of time, the pressure would would drop because the volume has dropped so much
Right.
that it can't maintain pressure. And so that's the issue. He understands there's no fix to it, that we're a rural system, and he said, I know USDA funded your system, and they, you know, he understands all the background behind it, but that's exactly,
But he knows that, we know that it's not gonna just be Buckhead, Carter's Creek, and Kelly. It's going to be Columbus County, other Pender,
oh, certainly,
anywhere from Elizabeth County, anyone's county.
yes.
Okay.
We had a good conversation, I had a good
And
conversation.
so the fire chiefs know all that too. I mean,
Right.
they know that our water system is drinking.
Yeah, we know.
Everybody knows that, so that's why they reach out
And
and.
he knew, and he understood it too. I think he just wanted, he's just kind of acknowledging that that's
And we know it.
the challenge that they face as the fire department trying to.
Thank you.
Anything, thank you, Mr. Bullock.
So does anyone know the status of the new urgent care across from Walmart? What's going on with that?
Says up there soon.
There you go.
They got grass in the yard. They got grass in the yard.
Are they supposed to-
They're a couple of weeks out.
Hold on, one other thing.
Oh, yes, sir.
What's the status on the signage request, Mr. Martin, that we talked about on 87 bypass? U-turns and, remember that, the last?
Yes, I will share that with you. We got it, over the weekend or sometime late Friday. Yeah.
Okay, okay. That's it, sir.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Martin,
Yes, sir.
I know Mr. Bullock brought this up over the years about, and I'm having people call me now left and right about that dip coming out of Burger King.
Oh, yeah.
Just about dropped your front end. But if you'd ask Mr. Clark, since they paved 2 streets last year and one house, my cousin at the end of that one street, now he's passed, so got a brand new nice highway with no residents on it, but we can't get that fixed at Burger King.
It's rough. I brought that up about 2 years ago.
If I'm not mistaken, and I'm not trying to, if I'm not mistaken, one of the last emails we received back from Ken, he indicated that that road is gonna be paved sometime in the, I don't know if it's this spring, and that's supposed to address it, but I'll follow up with him again. That's what I think I recall.
I'm not being really ugly about that road to Frank Carlson's house.
Yeah.
It does not make no sense at all.
It's almost like,
2 roads paved.
they kept
One
us-
house on end, he's already passed. Nobody on a new paved road.
Dr. Ellis?
I was just gonna ask too, and I don't know whether I'll ask Kip, did they ever get follow-up on the water issues, the pumping gallons per minute, second, for the new school? Like, was action ever taken? I know not on our part, but I was wondering whatever happened with that.
I think they have elected as school board,
They
they're
have.
gonna go with the option of the temporary tank.
I got you.
I read that today.
I was wondering. Okay, I got you.
All right, I have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Mr. Stevens, second by Mr. McGill. All in favor, say aye. Aye.